in that sequence, a large amount of people are fleeing the city, the town, and they get on their ferry boat and take off, leaving a large amount of people on shore. And as they're leaving, the tripod slowly arises right next to the ferry boat, and in fact starts to turn the ferry boat over.
To visualize this boat that would never physically ever turn over, you know, we had to take it up to the point where you think it's going to start tipping, touching the camera and things like that.
We got as much as we could with this real ferry, but there's times when people got thrown in the water, and the water up there was like incredibly cold. People couldn't stand being in the water for very long. So a lot of work was then done back in LA in an indoor tank. And then we go into ILM, and we were doing miniatures that fit in the scene also. We have a miniature ferry boat that we did.
And action! And cut!
5,000 people.
Yeah.
One life preserver.
There could be a block on it, so when it gets up to a certain
Later, so they're not just all moving in a mass.
We got some great information from Rick Carter's people on the ferry boat details. And then again, we have extensive photographs that are taken, and we put that into our computer, and we can kind of see where we're at. And then we built the thing in a very quick, short time, and the fact that it's a nighttime shot is beneficial because we can get away with a little bit looser details. However, in this shot, because it is tipping over 180 degrees, we actually had to detail almost all of it. But it was shot dry for wet, simulating water, only not using water. And what we do is actually shoot it in a smoke-filled stage. And then we, in this case, manipulated the ferry boat very much like a barbecue. And without the use of water, we can do it over and over again. And that's what we call dry for wet.
Some CG water here and there, and we've got some digital people that were putting in shots here and there, and blue screen people were putting in here and there. So it's a combination of a lot of different techniques that are necessary to make the stuff look as good as it can look, as opposed to just doing it all one way, like all CG or all real, because we couldn't do it all real on location. And so, you know, it's finding the best parts that we can get, and doing each part as good as you can, and then put them back together.
Look at him again.
No shield!
And then you look, and when it says no shield, you realize, oh my God, he's right. Oh, and he's a civilian. Why didn't he come up with that? Why weren't you act smart? I had a fascinating experience using real soldiers on Saving Private Ryan, and that was very exciting because a soldier knows how to fight, knows how to move, knows how to duck and cover, knows how to use their weapons. You know, you can't fake that, and you can't put 1,000 extras through basic training to teach them how to become soldiers. Okay, so what was the first order you, when you realized you could blow this? The javelin's the key! The javelin's the key! Come around like this when he says that, right with the sun flare. So the most natural thing for me to do with this was to get actual, you know, soldiers from the National Guard, the Army, the Reserves, the Marine Corps, the Navy, and the Air Force. We were able to bring them all together for this picture.
In my role as the Department of Defense project officer, I'm the coordinator for all military forces that are used in the making of this picture. So for the scenes that were shot in New York and Connecticut, we pulled from the Army's 10th Mountain Division. Now, I would say about 80% of those soldiers had recently returned from Iraq and or Afghanistan, and some were on their way back within the next month. So you can imagine that this film provided a fantastic break and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Small gesture here, some cake. Hope you like cake. But please know that the sentiment behind it is very large. So thank you.
And also, guys, when some of you going back, I understand, you're going to do re-up, you're going to tour duty. Be safe and tell everybody you work with that we're all behind you.
Yep.
Okay?
We wish you well, and once you come home safe.
Now let me take it.
You're here. Thank you, guys.
Try to act this out and be as realistic about it as possible. We want to see people struggling. We want to see people angry. We want to see people miserable. We don't want to see people laughing and smiling or doing anything like that. Is that clear? All right, great.
The science fiction elements are, throughout, because that's something that Stephen's done so well in his early work, and this definitely grabs hold of something that may seem born out of a fantasy notion, but in fact dealt with in a very, very hyper-realistic way.
When Ray first comes over the hill and sees the army fighting, it was one of those scary moments where you read the line in the script and all of a sudden it's like, it's a very simple line, but there's a ton of work that needs to be done to it to visualize that sequence. And one of the things that, we tried early on was to sort of interpret it as, as how sort of normal people would see it, which is to, fill it with a bunch of explosions and war machines and vehicles and stuff. And Stephen said, no, let's actually pull back on that, because he wanted to take it from a point of view of the character. So how would it look? How would you design it if you were actually seeing it from his character? So it's always a wide shot.
The War of the World sequence had to have a very specific look and a very specific